My dears, imagine holding a small copper-colored penny in your hand, glancing at the date 1965 and thinking it's just worth 1 cent. Now imagine that same penny, the 1965 Lincoln cent, could be worth tens, hundreds, or even thousands of dollars because of strange mint errors, unusual production mistakes, and rare variations that collectors around the world hunt for. What if that ordinary piece of change in your pocket could be hiding real value because something unexpected happened during its creation nearly 6 decades ago? Today we are going deep into the story of the 1965 Lincoln penny, why most are just 1 cent, but why certain coins can be worth far more due to fascinating errors and rarities that make them highly collectible. Whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who just loves discovering hidden treasures in coins, this story will reveal why the 1965 Lincoln cent deserves a much closer look than you might have ever given it before. The 1965 Lincoln penny occupies a unique place in American coinage history. Lincoln cents have been produced continuously since 1909, introduced to honor President Abraham Lincoln on the centennial of his birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent broke new ground as the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, and its image of Lincoln's profile has endured for more than a century. Over the decades, the penny went through several reverse design changes from the original wheat ears to the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, but the basic essence of the coin remained a tribute to Lincoln's legacy and a staple of everyday commerce. By 1965, Americans used pennies constantly, in cash transactions, pocket change, savings jars, and daily life routines. In that year, the Lincoln penny was struck without any mint mark at the Philadelphia Mint, meaning it carries no letter on the obverse. The 1965 Lincoln cent was part of a broader coinage year that also saw unusual supply dynamics because it came shortly after the Coinage Act of 1965, a period marked by changes in metallic composition and production demands influenced by a nationwide coin shortage. Despite the historical continuity of the Lincoln penny series, the 1965 issue stands out for both what it is and what it is not. Unlike modern pennies that are made primarily from zinc with a thin copper plating, pennies of this era were transitioning in composition and faced substantial production pressure. The 1965 cent is composed of a solid bronze alloy, 95% copper, 5% zinc, and tin, a format consistent with years prior to the mid-1960s changeover to copper-plated zinc. Millions of these coins were struck and released into circulation, making them very common if judged by sheer numbers alone. A typical 1965 penny found in change today, showing wear and years of handling, is generally worth just its face value of 1 cent. Even rusty, scratched, or bent examples are usually still valued at about a penny among most collectors and dealers unless a particular error or unusual characteristic is present. In standard numismatic price guides, a typical circulated 1965 Lincoln penny without any notable error or rare condition is worth something in the range of a few cents up to maybe $1 or $2 if it is in exceptionally nice condition for its age. Uncirculated examples, which retain much of their original surface and have not been used in commerce, are worth a bit more, often a few dollars in mid-mint state grades, and perhaps a modest premium more for particularly attractive specimens. This reflects the enormous numbers of 1965 cents produced and the relative ease with which collectors can find ordinary examples in comparison to rarer earlier dates or specialized collectibles. However, what makes the 1965 Lincoln cent truly fascinating is not the ordinary circulated pieces that clink in change, it is the error coins and mint anomalies that occasionally appear, driving collector interest and value far beyond that humble 1 cent face value. In the world of coin collecting, the phrase error coin refers to a coin that deviates from the mint's intended design because of a mistake made during the production process. These errors can arise at various stages, from planchet preparation, the blank metal discs before striking, to the striking process itself, as well as in die creation or handling. Modern minting machinery is highly automated and generally very reliable, but given the enormous volume of coins produced each year and the complex sequence of steps involved, occasional mistakes are inevitable. When these mistakes become recognizable errors that slipped past quality control, the resulting coins become objects of desire for collectors who see in them not just monetary value but a narrative of production history and rarity. One of the major areas of interest in error coins is the off-center strike. This type of error occurs when a planchet is not properly positioned under the dies at the moment of striking. Ins. My dears, the Lincoln penny is an iconic symbol of American coinage, first issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was groundbreaking for being the first U.S. coin to depict a real person. Over the years the design evolved, originally wheat ears on the reverse and then, starting in 1959, the Lincoln Memorial, but the essence remained the same, a tribute to one of America's most beloved presidents. By 1969, the Lincoln Memorial reverse had been in use for a decade, and billions of pennies were produced to meet the nation's everyday demand for loose change. In 1969 alone, the United States Mint struck Lincoln pennies at 3 different facilities: Philadelphia No Mint Mark, Denver D Mint Mark, and San Francisco S Mint Mark. The numbers are staggering. For example, the Denver Mint produced over 4 billion 1969 pennies, the Philadelphia Mint over 1 billion, and the San Francisco Mint around 544 million for circulation in addition to proof issues. Because of the enormous volume of coins produced and circulated that year, most 1969 pennies you see today are worth just their face value of 1 cent, or at most a modest premium of a few cents in average condition. Most ordinary 1969 Lincoln cents found in everyday circulation are common and hold no significant value beyond their familiar face value. They changed hands countless times over the last 6 decades, worn down through everyday use in cash registers, piggy banks, and coin jars. In circulated condition, these pennies are generally worth about 1 cent. Some may be worth a few cents to collectors who are building date sets, especially those in slightly better condition, but for most collectors and dealers, an ordinary worn 1969 penny is a common piece that simply fills a slot in a collection. According to price guides, a typical circulated example without any special condition or error may be valued at about 5 to 30 cents or around face value depending on condition. Even uncirculated, standard examples without major interest are typically not worth more than a few dollars if they lack notable qualities. However, within this sea of common pieces lies an extraordinary outlier, the 1969 S double die obverse. This is widely considered one of the greatest error coins in modern Lincoln cent history, not an everyday find but a holy grail variety for collectors. This error occurred during the die creation process when the die itself received 2 impressions in slightly different positions. As a result, the coins struck from that die exhibit dramatic doubling that is clearly visible to the naked eye. You'll see strong doubling on details such as the date 1969 itself, the word liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust." The visual effect looks like shadows or extra layers behind the letters and date, a hallmark of a true double die rather than subtle machine doubling or die wear that can appear on some coins. Authentic 1969 S double die obverse Lincoln pennies are extraordinarily rare. Based on combined certification population records from grading services, only about 40 to 50 genuine specimens of this variety are known to exist. Because of its rarity and dramatic appearance, this coin has achieved staggering auction prices. Examples authenticated and graded with strong surfaces have sold for $50,000 to $120,000 or more, with one red RD-MS-64 example achieving around $126,500 at heritage auctions in the past. Mid-grade circulated pieces of this same variety have brought $10,000 to $30,000 or more. The highest grades of this error can sell in 6-figure ranges depending on condition, color designation, and collector demand. To put this into context, imagine finding a coin in your pocket that fetches tens of thousands of dollars simply because the die that struck it had an unusual imperfection. That's the power of mint errors and why collectors are always looking for rare varieties even in modern coinage. While the 1969 S double die obverse is the crown jewel of 1969 penny errors, it is far from the only variation worth knowing about. Another collectible variety is the no FG error on 1969 D pennies, where the designer's initials FG for Frank Gasparo, who designed the Lincoln Memorial reverse, are missing on the reverse. The initials normally appear at the lower right of the memorial design, and if they are absent due to die polishing or other issues, collectors classify the coin as a 1969 D no FG variety. It is not nearly as rare or valuable as the double die variety, but it still commands a significant premium over an ordinary 1969 D penny, especially in higher grades. Uncirculated no FG examples in MS-65 condition have been known to sell for over $200 to $500 or more depending on color designation and overall eye appeal. Beyond those specific varieties, 1969 pennies can also exhibit the types of errors that happen in the striking pro. The Lincoln cent is one of the most iconic coins ever produced by the United States Mint. First issued in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, this coin was designed by Victor David Brenner and marked the first time a U.S. coin depicted a real person. From its origin with wheat ears on the reverse side to the Lincoln Memorial reverse introduced in 1959, the Lincoln cent has circulated in billions of quantities in everyday commerce for more than a century. The 1995 Lincoln cent was produced during the era when copper-plated zinc composition was already standard, meaning these coins are made of a core of zinc with a thin copper plating on the outside, a change that began in 1982. In 1995 alone, more than 7.1 billion Lincoln pennies were struck at the Denver Mint, making this a very common date overall. Because of that enormous mintage, most 1995 pennies that you or anyone finds in everyday change are worth exactly 1 cent in terms of face value, and without any special characteristics or condition they typically sell for just a few cents above face value in collector circles. Most ordinary 1995 pennies that show wear from circulation, such as scratches, discoloration, or surface flattening from use, are not considered especially valuable beyond that small premium for collectors completing date sets. In fact, common circulated examples of the 1995 Lincoln cent most often trade for just above face value in the range of a few cents to perhaps a few dozen cents, depending on condition and eye appeal. As you move into uncirculated, original condition examples, especially those with attractive red or red-brown color, standard mint state pieces can bring a few dollars among collectors, and maybe slightly more if they show strong surface quality. But here is where things get truly fascinating for coin collectors. Not all 1995 Lincoln pennies are ordinary. Some of them carry errors, mistakes, and varieties that occurred during the minting process, and these have made certain coins far more valuable than 1 cent. These are coins with stories born from moments when precision equipment and human processes intersected imperfectly, creating coins that deviate from the intended design. While most pennies from 1995 will never fetch more than their face value or a modest premium, some rare examples have sold for hundreds, thousands, or even more depending on the exact type of error and the coin's condition. Here's how and why that happens, and what kinds of rare varieties and mistakes make these pennies so valuable. One of the most talked about error types associated with the 1995 Lincoln penny series is the double die obverse DDO variety. A double die error happens not when the coin is struck, but earlier in the process when the die itself is created. In die production, a hub which holds the design in relief stamps the die multiple times to impress the design. If the hubbing process misaligns during one of these impressions, the result is a die that has duplicate images lodging slightly out of position. When that flawed die is later used to strike blanks into coins, the coins exhibit doubling where letters, numbers, and design elements appear as though they have a faint shadow or have been stamped twice slightly off from each other. This phenomenon is not just subtle machine doubling that occurs from die wear or normal striking, it is actual doubling because of how the die was made. On a 1995 Lincoln cent with a true double die obverse, you can see this doubling on the front side most prominently in the word Liberty, the motto "In God We Trust," and sometimes even in the date 1995 itself. The double die obverse variety is special because it represents a genuine mint variety that has become collectible. Circulated examples of the 1995 double die penny typically sell for tens to a few $100s depending on condition and the strength of the doubling. According to coin value guides, circulated examples with moderate doubling might sell in the $20, $50 range, while well-struck double die examples in uncirculated condition, particularly those with strong red color, have been known to sell for hundreds or even over $1,000. Some highly graded specimens have achieved prices well into the mid-four-figure territory in auction and private sale records. A high-grade 1995 double die obverse penny graded MS67 red, for example, has been documented selling for several $1,000s, with some reports indicating values approaching or exceeding $4,000 for top examples. These values highlight how dramatic doubling and superior surface quality can elevate a coin's collectible worth far above its face value. Beyond the double die obverse variety, other types of errors and varieties can also increase a 1995 penny's worth when collectors identify them. One example described in collector guides is the